So Ella, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm brilliant. I'm brilliant. So happy to have you here finally. I've been practicing with several podcasts, just waiting to get to you. So glad
Oh,
you're here
was
now.
brilliant. The honoured podcast invite.
Exactly, exactly. And you've got a couple of roles to tell us about, which is incredible. So I'll let you do the big reveal as to where you'll be working and what roles you're going into, and give us a quick breakdown of your background as well.
Yeah, to everyone listening, I'm Ella. I'm a current student at Nottingham University. I'm studying economics, and this summer I'm going to be interning at Deloitte and Accenture, which should be exciting. So some sort of consultancy, a bit of assurance kind of stuff that I'm taking a look into this summer. And yeah, I'm really excited to look at those and also talk about how I got into those roles as well for everyone.
Amazing, amazing, and two brilliant companies. You've been a bit greedy there. Come on, like, how many jobs do you
No,
need?
I'm very indecisive. That's the problem. So rather than choose one, it's yeah, let's do both.
I love that. I mean, that's so powerful for your CV, and it's going to set you up nicely for a grad scheme as well next year. So let's dive straight in then. So consulting, as an area, and I know you've got insurance in there as well. Um, I'd love to hear from you, your thoughts on that. Why did you decide that was the right route for you? Any connections with, doing the economics degree that made you want to get into that? What were your thoughts there?
I think in general, like especially studying economics, there's a big push to look into banking and to look into IB. And when I was sort of taking a look at what roles were available and finance kind of stuff, I was kind of like, I'm kind of just doing this because everyone's applying for Barclays, everyone's applying for JP Morgan. Like, yeah, these are the big jobs. Like, if everyone's applying for it, it's good. And I didn't actually stop and really think about what is my best skill set. What do I kind of enjoy working wise? And then I sort of had a look at like I think SEO, yeah, with SEO London, they do a lot of, tasters, insight days with companies, and the consultancies sort of really stood out to me as like, oh, okay, you know what? Oh, actually, I think I really enjoy this doing projects, working with teams, and just I think doing a bit more of the advisory side of stuff. I think just kind of really appealed to me as a variety and just yeah, I think in general, it's I think when you're looking for a job, as much as there's roles that seem to be really good and really great as like sort of like like Barclays has got a great reputation. I also think you should actually look for something that really fits you as a person and really fits the skill set you have because you're much more likely to sort of excel and go forward in that area. But yeah, that was sort of the main reason for consultancy. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like if it's not quite right for you, you probably will going to get found out. And I spoke about that on the last podcast. For me, the same thing happened. I did economics and tried to go down a certain finance route, and they could tell that I wasn't passionate about it, and it wasn't quite right for me, so I didn't get that role. But yeah, I think the world of consultancy and strategy is an amazing place to start, especially because you learn how to solve business problems, which is so valuable no matter what role you go into. So I've been in a couple of companies where they've been desperate to hire from people who've kind of had that strategic background. And in terms of some of the skills that are really important, there's the logical problem solving skills that employers really look for, the ability to be analytical as well, so take on data and information and make business decisions off the back of that. And then people skills as well, right? Like it's a people business, so that it's about convincing your client to like buy into your thought process. So those three things probably stand out as something you want to convey in your CV or kind of gather as well throughout uni.
100%, yeah, and I feel like like you said, it's like a universal skill set that you get from consulting, and you're also exposed to all these industries and different problems and different kind of things. I think great way for you if you're not sure to find, potentially find something else that you like while also developing your career set. So I just think, yeah, it looked like a great opportunity to go into. So I'm glad I've chosen it. We'll have to see first once I go in, but yeah, sounding good so far.
Yeah, we'll do another episode when you've done both of those, so you can give us a review.
Yeah,
But
nice
let's
reflection.
yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. So let's go into the application story. So you obviously got two, so up to you how you want to take it. But yeah, maybe just talk us through the story, how you got on through the application process, and I might jump in and ask some questions. But we'd love to get some of your tips. But yeah, tell us how you actually got the roles.
Yeah, awesome. Well, I started, I think, in sort of September time, looking at. I knew because I'd applied for some spring weeks and I didn't get a spring week, so I knew like, okay, right, I knew sort of where to apply and what to, where to go as sort of a first stepping stone. So I started to look at the big ones, apply for sort of Barclays, HSBC, all these banking ones at first, even though I wasn't even sure about banking at all. And it was actually during this September October period that I realized, okay, this is not for me. Like I said before, consultancy is definitely something I want to go into, as another idea. And yeah, so I started applying to all these companies, started doing all the tests, all the sort of interviews, video interviews. And I realized with those, I was applying way too late because it was sort of like October time, November, and I really got the ball rolling and started applying to them properly. And I started getting a lot of sort of, we're full, or like, um, yeah, sort of like, oh, we get back to you. They don't get back to you for 3 months or so, and then yeah, I got a couple in November saying, look, like we've finished our recruitment process. Sorry, like we'll keep your application for next time, but it's over. And I think that was really sort of demoralizing because I was like, oh my gosh, is this the end? Like I don't even know if I really want to work for these companies, and I'm not even getting a chance to sort of see, like, it's really quite stressful. And that's why I think my first tip has always been apply early, because I think learning now and having had my CV ready and everything for my consultancy applications, it made me realize, oh, this was so important when I was applying in September. But yeah, so.
And so what do you think in terms of applying early? Which month should we be looking at? Because you've obviously got to do your graduate scheme now, and you'll probably get 2 offers from Deloitte and Accenture. But when would you be looking to apply if you're kind of doing that?
I think, well, I'm not really sure about the graduate timeline. I have to find out soon because I'm pretty sure it starts to roll around soon. But definitely for summer internships, things open in sort of July, August, September. Those are sort of like the key opening times. Consultancy is later. It's January kind of time for a lot of the consultancies. But yeah, a lot of them are early, and you need to, even if you sort of like don't want to apply until like September, you still need to have your CV ready and your sort of like your understanding of the company, all that kind of research, background research, all of that needs to be done for September, I'd say, at the latest. Do you know what I mean? Like over summer, that kind of time, get it all done and get those applications in September, because a lot of assessment centres start in October and you want to be first in line for the assessment centres for those. And so you actually find when you're in the sort of October, November period, you're kind of at the sort of the tail end. Do you know what I mean? Where they might bring you in if you apply fast enough, you just got in front of loads of people, but the deadlines are starting to come up and people are, there's loads of people applying at that point, and you're in the bottom half of the big pool of people who are applying. And companies don't operate that way unless they have a deadline that is they're not rolling, that not rolling deadline. But a lot of companies are rolling, and so you have to just get it in and get it in there. So I'd say September is sort of your crucial crunch time. You want to get the work done over summer, and then September, once you get back to uni, that's time to go. But yeah, definitely September. But yeah, and then so I had that sort of not really sure what was going on. I had a couple invites for ACs and stuff like that, but even like EY and AC coming up, and then suddenly they were like, yeah, no, we're full, like cancelled it, that kind of thing. And Macquarie, then they were like, yeah, do you want to come for an interview? And then I replied a bit late on the email, and they were like, yeah, no. It's that kind of thing.
No.
It's just constant, like, oh no. And so when I came around for the consultancy applications, and I actually had realized at that point, what, like banking, I'm not even really sure if I want to do that. I was there at the start, do you know what I mean? Like ready to applying early. Accenture, I applied quite early as well for that one. And I was in there, done. And I think that's why I had a lot more success with sort of getting to the interview stage and just getting, progressing my applications rather than just being sat there waiting to hear back from my video interview that I did 3 months, 3 months ago. Like, It was just, yeah. So definitely, I think the first part was getting those applications ready and applying early for the ones that you really want. You've got to be sure about these things. Can't do it half-heartedly. Well, sometimes you're lucky, but you never know.
100%. And yeah, as you said, like they can start inviting people to interview or assessment centers whenever they want, right? So you've got a much better chance. I forget the percentages, but your highest chance of getting the role is if you apply like within the first couple of weeks of it going live. So that really does give you an advantage. And the recruiters, let's be honest, they want to find the best people. So if I'm working at Accenture, I'm going to want to hire you rather than let you go to work at EY. So I've got a better chance of doing that if I can kind of get you to my assessment center earlier. So
Exactly.
it's all about that speed element, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think people underestimate how much speed matters because of the deadlines that people put out. But the deadlines are provisional. Some companies even just suddenly close early because they're done. They're done with all their, with their recruiting process. And I think that was the main thing I've definitely learned this year, because spring weeks, it wasn't too bad about the deadlines. But I think with lockdown and everything that's been going on, everyone is a bit more, it's been a very competitive atmosphere, and they haven't been able to accommodate for everyone and really give everyone a chance, an examine of their CV. So yeah, I definitely think applying early, like you said, first few weeks if you can, but that's not reasonable for everyone, I guess.
Yeah, true. Yeah, not everyone can do that, especially if it's a longer application. Might need a little bit more time. But the ideal thing to do probably is have the list of where you want to work, and then sign up for those alerts so you get that notification as soon as the roles come out, so you can start prepping. Yeah.
The priority list, that is so important, a priority list. And I think as well, like, because I wasn't sure about what I was going to do, and I just was applying as like this is like, I'm lucky that at my university, the Economic Society is really good at sort of giving you a lot of information, giving you a lot of resources about what's open, when it's open, and what's happening. And so I had those kind of things, but I wasn't sure myself on where I wanted to go. And so even though I had this access of information, I wasn't utilizing it properly. And so I think that whole understanding where you want to go and where and why needs to be done first. That's the first step. That's the first step. 100%. Yeah.
Perfect. So what happened then next? So you've now applied at the right sort of time for these two firms, and then what was the next stage?
Yeah, so I think Deloitte was the first one I sort of did the process for, and so I think it was like a job simulation type thing, some maths tests, and then some video interviews. And then I had a final round interview with sort of like a manager at Deloitte. She was lovely. And I think I remember telling you before, I think the main thing with that interview is I really enjoyed it. Like I really sort of was comfortable, and I was really, I don't know, I feel like I'd had a couple interviews before then. So I feel like that was kind of, I'd got into the process a bit more of being less nervous and more comfortable with sort of the interviews that are going on. And I felt like I was really able to portray myself well with the interview and get along with her quite well and enjoy it. So I think, that was great with Deloitte. And then Accenture.
And dive into that a little bit more. I think that's really, really important, because I don't know if it's just me because I'm super strange, but I used to really enjoy interviews. Like, it's basically a chance for you to talk about yourself for like an hour. So it's great. But for you, as I remember, that was probably something different that you did in that interview than previous, right? Like you genuinely were having like a nice little chat and, laughing and stuff. So tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I think I had an interview with P&G, I think maybe like a week before. So that was for a finance internship. And I wasn't really sure about that one. I was like, yeah, maybe, like I don't really know. And while it was fine, and I feel like I sort of I answered all the questions, and I wasn't sat there stumbling or anything, but I wasn't really like, I hadn't connected with the interview at all. And you could definitely tell that I was sat there thinking, oh my gosh, an interview, I'm not really sure maybe this is the right thing. That kind of didn't have my sort of structure ready for how I want to sort of speak about the stories that I'm talking about. And I didn't feel fully comfortable talking to the interviewer, because I'd put him on a pedestal in a sense. That's, you put him on a pedestal and you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is going to he's looking like he's watching what I say. Am I saying the right thing? You overthink and you get yourself in a rabbit hole when you're not actually expressing your personality properly. And I think with the Deloitte interview, I kind of sat in there. I was like, right, okay, I've done one already. If it goes badly, it goes badly. Like whatever, let's just go. Let's just do it. And I feel like I just fully came out and spoke with confidence, spoke comfortably, and I was also just relaxed. That was the main thing. I was relaxed. You're not thinking about the outcome. You're just there in the present moment, enjoying your time in the interview. And I think that is so important for you to find a way to sort of maybe, I don't know, breathing exercise, meditation or something before you go into the interview, wherever you find sort of your cup of tea, wherever you find relaxes you and just gets you back into the zone of realizing that the interviewer is just another person that you're talking to. They are, the same as you. They're just at work today and they're just, they've had 5 other people just before you. They really don't care. They don't care, and they're just there to just see the best from you. And so you just got to acknowledge that. And I think once you get comfortable, it will come across and they can feed off on that. And I found, like, so I'd be talking about a story, she would then be like, oh, okay, cool. Like, what was this? what was it? Obviously a bit more formal than this. But, give me a question to elaborate on. And I'd be like, yeah, actually, this happened. It was flowing properly. And my other interview was like, oh, so one time I went to this, like really full. I was rigid, awkward, and understanding it's another person you're talking to, and that if you fail, there's 10 more opportunities down the line. It's not the be all end all. It never is. So I think treat everything like you're there to enjoy it. It's an hour of your time that you're going to be wasting if you don't like it. So yeah, treat it as just good experience, good learning experience, and don't put too much weight on it, because that's the main thing for that.
That's a great mentality to have. And I would just add, like, they want you to do well. That's the whole point. They're not trying to catch you out, 100%. If you kind of I feel like if you have empathy for the recruiter, for the employer at every stage of the application process, I feel like you can do much better when you kind of intellectualize like what they're going through. Essentially, they've been tasked with finding really eager, talented candidates to join their summer internship. They really want you. Again, it's a competitive thing. You've got Accenture, you've got Deloitte, you've got KPMG, you've got EY. They all want to find the best people, and just think about yourself as one of those people. So they're competing for your attention, right? So that employer, that recruiter is being tasked. That's their job, to find great people like yourself. So rather than thinking, oh, they're going to test me on this, they're trying to catch me out, it's really, oh, let's see if they can do the role because we think they could be right based on their background. And if you do get invited to the final round interview, they definitely think you can do the job at that point. So, put that out of your mind. They've already seen your background, your CV, probably your LinkedIn, and they think you could be a great fit for the team or for that role. And now they want to find out, what are you like in the interview? Are you really passionate? Have you done your research? Could you be a great person to join our team? Because we're going to have to spend however many months with you, or much longer if it's a graduate scheme. That building that rapport, having an engaging conversation can be super powerful. And I think I said this on the last one as well. Like you kind of forget exactly what they said during the interview. Like, if we're really honest, there's periods of time where I've interviewed people and you kind of zone in, you zone out, and you kind of get a feel for what they said. But when you leave, when you walk out the interview, you think, how did that feel, right? Like, how did it feel to talk to Toby? Did he seem like he really knew what he was talking about and he wanted to be there? Did he ask engaging questions? That's more what you take away, rather than literally writing down every single thing you said,
100%. And I think I think the point you said that is so important as well, is you're there for a reason. Do you know what I mean? You've got to that stage, that final stage, because you're a good candidate. So you're a person who's here to have a conversation with you, and sorry, I think I can sort of cut you out a bit, but they're having a conversation with you, and I think if it's awkward for both of you, neither of you are going to go back from that experience enjoying yourselves. You're gonna think, okay, right, that was a bit, whatever. But if you can, engage with each other, learn something as well from your interviewer, because they've probably got a lot of cool stuff to tell you as well, and they're learning stuff from you about you as a person, your background. And I think, it's an opportunity to show that you're a great candidate, and you definitely are. So that's a mentality I think you really have to have, and I think a lot of people who do well have that, and they've come in and they're confident and they're ready to sort of just really express themselves, and I think that's why a lot of people have done well.
Amazing. So what was next then? So you did your interview. I mean, we've got assessment centres, we've got the other interview with Accenture. Where do you want to take it from here?
This is Deloitte at this point, and from then on, like you sort of have a while before you hear back. And so this was sort of like at Christmas time, and I wasn't sure particularly if I wanted to take, obviously Deloitte is a great company, would really love that one, but I also wasn't completely sure if it was like my top choice or anything like that. And I still had the consultancy round was coming in January, because Deloitte is sort of in the middle. They sort of do they're like November kind of time where you apply to Deloitte, and they are less rolling. They're more like deadline based. And so so it was about January time when they had sort of BCG and OC&C and all these other companies were opening for their consultancy ones, and so that's when I started applying for all of those and getting onto that role. And I had all the case study fiasco of consulting, which I'm sure other people have had, just of like constant practice and just being so overwhelmed with the amount of yeah, it's just create those interviews are very intense. But
Are there any big tips on that? Because that's a tough one that I struggle when people ask. Or are there any resources? It sounds like you just need to really practice it, right?
yeah, case studies is something I think you can take a look through. Like Case in Point is a classic book that I think most consulting applicants have taken a look at, and you take a look at online. There's always frameworks and sort of just business acumen that you can read up on and get some knowledge on that will help you with your sort of base case study knowledge. But from that point on, it is all about practice and practicing maybe like this with someone on a video conference, or practicing with your mum, you know, that kind of thing. Like just getting that practice in, because you need, like, a case study is sort of like you're just doing work under pressure, basically sitting there doing work, explaining it, doing your mental maths like this under pressure, and it's just it's a hard interview. It's a hard interview to do, and so all you can do is just do as much practice as you can and hope that it comes to the best. But yeah, so I had those. So I had some interviews with, I did an interview at OCNC and BCG with my two sort of consultancy ones I did with. Unfortunately, didn't get an offer from those two, but I'm really glad to have that opportunity, because I think that's really helped me sort of build my, you know, for the future. Really helped, my interview practice, and and the key thing for those, actually, a tip there is mental maths. Really work on your mental maths. You can do, I think it's called Victor Cheng, I think, has a maths service online that you can do, like, just practice maths tests, and it'll be like, what's 1,800 divided by 5, you know, just like that, and just getting used to doing it like this is really important for no calculators for case study interviews. But and then so Accenture, I had an assessment centre for Accenture. I'd actually forgotten about my Accenture application at this point, because they had quite a big period of, like, you don't hear back, and they emailed for an assessment centre, so I agreed to do that. And so with this experience, right, okay, with this one, it was actually, I think it started at like 8 a.m. the assessment centre. I haven't woken up that early in a long time, so I was like, okay, right, this one I've got to, like, you know, get on it. And you also do prepare a presentation. Well, I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say about the recruitment process, but I did a presentation, basically. So you had to prepare a presentation before. And so I was up, I think with this one, I woke up an extra, an hour and a half early. So I woke up at maybe 6:30 or something, which I hadn't woken up at early in so long, because I don't have anything on with coronavirus up in my lectures. But so I got up and I just went downstairs. I just was like, okay, I need to wake up and just relax, like relax. I've got like hours ahead of me with Accenture. And so I went, I think I sort of had a little walk in the morning, actually, did a little 20-minute walk or something, woke up, showered, 20-minute walk, came back, had some food, and just read over my presentation notes, came on. That's how I sort of approached that, because I was like, look, you know what, I've got to get this done. And with Accenture, I actually had a similar experience to with Deloitte, as I said, where I sort of had come in and just been like, hey, let's just do this. I'm ready to go. And I started with an interview, I think, for the first hour, and I just really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. You know, spoke to the interview about a lot of my experiences, and I think a key thing here was that I had pre-prepared, like, an interview document. So, you know, like, you have the interactive guide with diverse hires, that kind of thing. I think it's key, especially when you have, like, an assessment centre, you don't know what questions you're getting asked, and you're getting asked questions all day, to have had a look at every single experience that you've had and every sort of example you can think of, teamwork, leadership, that, you know what I mean? I had an ongoing document, basically, of just where I'd answered these questions before, and I had that in the back of my mind as sort of preparation of just answers to have. And so I was able to sort of roll these off and just really detail some of my experiences, and really enjoyed that as well with Accenture. And presentation was fine as well, and had a couple group exercises, this kind of thing. But I think that overall that was fine. I wasn't sure though afterwards, because you do so many different activities, you're not sure, like, if you've definitely done well, if you definitely haven't. So I sort of waited. Afterwards I was like, okay, I enjoyed it, but I just don't know, wait and see. And luckily it was good news. But so those were the two recruitment processes. And then after that, I just was like, okay, no more. Stop now. And just after I got my offer from Accenture and sort of left any other application I did, I was like, right, no more.
We're done now. I mean, you've done tremendously well. So let's dig into that one a little bit more, and thanks for mentioning the resource that we have as well. So if anyone needs that, we've got an interactive interview guide. I think there's 10 or so common interview questions. If you're not sick of hearing my voice, then you can listen to me, my pre-recorded questions on there, and you can answer out loud. It's just a great way to practice before your actual interview, which can be super, super handy. So, but let's dig into it a little bit more. So the presentation that you had to do, obviously you can't tell us, what the questions were and that kind of thing, but how were you able to do that well, or kind of be confident? Do you have any tips on that? Because that's usually something you have to do in an assessment centre.
So with presentation, so this was my first presentation actually. So I hadn't had any of the sort of other interviews I'd done. That was, this is the first one, and I think that I just had to pull on my sort of school knowledge of like group presentations when you go in. But what I did was I sort of made a document where I had all my notes that I'd made, the points I wanted to make, and sort of just some extra information on those, and cut them out as sort of cue cards that I had sort of with me, and you were allowed sort of cue cards to have as a preparation. And I think with this presentation, because I had done it maybe like the day, two days or a day before, it was fresh in my mind, and I was able to sort of really rattle off the information and talk about it. And I think with a presentation, the one thing you have to do is just make it engaging. You could, I was talking about oil companies or something, and I don't know if my interviewer could have thought that was the most boring thing I was talking about ever. But you have to make it engaging and understand, she's sitting there, she wants to learn something. So how can you make this information accessible? How can you make it presentable? And if you're just using your voice, like how this presentation was, are you engaging with them online? Are you looking at them? And are you sort of delivering that information with enthusiasm? I think that's the key thing, enthusiasm. You can't just sit there so today I'm going to look, a boring kind of boring presentation. But what would you say as well for presentations? Like, what are the key tips that you kind of thought of? Because with that one, I sort of had to just, think like what I just said about my presentation of the information, but I haven't really thought about what else in particular made that successful. But yeah, Toby, what about you?
Yeah, I think you touched on one of the biggest things, which is making it engaging, because if you think about it, again, having empathy for the employer at every single stage, they've probably watched presentations quite a few times. They probably watched this exact presentation already today or yesterday or whatever. So you've got to differentiate yourself by making it fun and engaging. I think the preparation is key, so that you've got kind of a few key sections that you're going to focus on. Because what you don't want to be doing is constantly looking down at your flashcards and reading it and that kind of thing. You want to just have a few key points that can kind of guide you, and that's it. So you kind of glance down and you go from there, and you just kind of try to be really engaging, use your hands, change your kind of your voice about when you're talking, to kind of keep them really, really engaged. And then on top of that as well, I think it's really just, you're going to be in a group as well, right? So you kind of want to split it up and say, okay, you're going to do the intro part and kind of help each other out throughout the process. So, you might bounce off something else that someone else has said. So it's not necessarily just all planned out from the beginning. You're actually going to bounce off and maybe ask follow-up questions or support each other in the presentation, because that's kind of still part of the group exercise as well. So those are some key things. And similarly to an interview, I think it's good to have that structure ahead of time with a couple of key points. So, and this is more for an interview question, but I like to think with every question, let's think of 1, 2, 3 points that I'm going to go into. And that helps me not waffle on too much, right? Because I've got a bit of a structure in my head as to what I'm going to talk about. And so I go through point 1, point 2, point 3, and that keeps it nice and kind of concise. But I think you touched on the key things there about being really kind of presentable and engaging. And it's good to get any practice that you can beforehand of doing that, getting up in front of people and talking. If you can do acting, that's probably the best thing you could ever do, get on stage and kind of do your thing. But anything like that, I think is really, really good. Clubhouse even as well, good way to go, to kind of practice public speaking in a safe way. I think those things are really good as well. So lots of stuff to do there, I guess. How about the group exercise then? We've got to go into the group exercise, my favorite part.
Yeah, well, I think, definitely just to finish with that, like you said, you reminded me sort of structure was a key thing. I had all my sections sort of labeled out, and then just knowing your stuff to roll off the tongue for that. So that was an individual presentation, and then we had a group exercise after that. So this one was more like a pair negotiation exercise. So you had a moderator and we were sitting there negotiating something and sort of looking at this information. And I think with this exercise, I think I really found important was to like really listen to everything your partner said and like follow on from it and show that you're listening to them, show that you understand the viewpoints that they're trying to make, because you have to show that you can work well together. That's the key thing for group exercise, is showing you're not there to like show off. Do you know what I mean? It's not group exercise is definitely not about showing off. It's about teamwork. And so I think me and my partner were really good in sort of, I'd say a point and then he'd say, you know what, I really agree, let's involve that in this. And I say, that really links into what we did earlier. You know, this kind of like this back and forth of acknowledging where the other person has got a really good idea. And we also had to reflections, I think, on how we thought the other person, you know, like, yeah, they were asking quite a few sort of controversial things, but we were not controversial, just like stuff to get you thinking.
Sure.
And yeah, they were asking us sort of like, okay, what do you think you two did wrong? What do you think you needed to do better? What do you think the other person should have done more? And I think just being really aware of not just what you're doing, but what have you done together? What have you produced? And what, you know, having that team experience, maybe just from working from group exercises at university or working in team sports, you've got to sort of use that teamwork experience you've had just to rub off on each other well and just really engage with the other person. I think that's what I found with the group exercise. But I enjoyed it though. It's all right. It was all right though. Group exercise.
This is the story of your application. You're just enjoying every single stage, having a laugh with the interviewer.
It's only the ones I've enjoyed are the ones I've done well in. that's just what I think I found. Like there's some I've definitely not enjoyed where I just felt so stressed or just like pressured. But I think when I've enjoyed it, I think it's just showed that I was what's the word? I'd got into it. I got comfortable. So I think like that. Yeah. That's all for those ones. That's all I can say for those.
Super important. And with the negotiation task, I don't know if it was one of those where you're in your group of two and then there's another group of two, but if there's, no matter what, if there's any kind of negotiation element to it, what I found from real life negotiation is that, and this is something they teach you in these courses, is that some people are really competitive and they think, you know, we're going to try and win the negotiation, and that's really the wrong way to go. In business especially, you want to have a scenario in which when you're done, both sides are happy with the outcome. Because if you try and kind of like get one over on the other side and you're kind of being greedy and just trying to win out the negotiation, then in real life that doesn't work out long term. So, you know, if there's any element of a negotiation in a task, I would just say you want to try and come to a solution that's fair and reasonable for both sides. That's more the goal. And again, the group exercise is about collaboration. So even if someone or another group might be your opponent in your mind when you see the task, really it's about collaboration and coming to the best outcome. So that's something I would definitely add. But yeah, I think you've touched on the key ones in terms of that teamwork. I mean, a lot of people go in and they step on other people's toes in the group exercise, and it just never works. You know, you're very often not going for the same job, right? So they can hire you all.
That, you know, and I think that's one thing I noticed as well is, I think on my group exercise, the person I was working with, we weren't even applying for we weren't even on the same applications. Like we weren't going for the same job. I think he was going for a placement year and I was going for a summer, you know, those two completely different things. And so like, you never know what, like what they're there for, what you're actually competing for, because it's with a group exercise, it's not a competition at all. It's like you said, it's collaboration. So yeah, working together. That's what I can say. Working together and actively listening to what your partner has to say, because you can knock off on that.
100%. Yeah. And I used to like to say, oh, Alex, I know that you're an expert on this. So before you kind of get into a group exercise, you can kind of find out a little bit about everyone. What's their expertise? What's their background? You know, you do marketing and they do chemical engineering, and there's an engineering element to it. You can say, oh, Alex, I know that's your thing. Do you want to chime in on this? So that's what they're looking for, to pull the strings like that. Now that's really cool.
Yeah. Did you do that? No, I said that. I like that though. That's so very important. Like just sort of like, that's the same, isn't it? Listening to what your people have to say and understand, like just, I don't know, sort of getting having an interest in the other people that you're about to work with, and it can come across really well, especially when you're doing some teamwork. Yeah. around that.
Yeah, and that starts as well before the exercise as well. Like once you're there, I remember when I did it, the ones that I performed well, we all kind of perform well together. Like we kind of try to become friends, before the actual process. So we just had that like, team chemistry. You know what I mean? It's the same as like sport or something. You want that
Yeah,
team chemistry.
exactly.
Yeah, so you also had some really, really good points when we spoke earlier around kind of demotivation and dealing with that, particularly, in a COVID job market.
Yeah.
Thankfully we're coming out of that, but there's still lots of challenges. So yeah, I think you've got some great advice on that you can share with the audience.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I sort of touched on this earlier when I was saying about how even when I was applying for my banking opportunities, I wasn't actually sure about those. And I was sort of half going for it and sort of trying, but I was too late and that kind of thing. And that was such a demotivating process because I was just getting rejection, not even after they've looked at your CV. It was sort of rejection because they don't have any space, and that was sort of very off-putting. But I think when you're at home and you're sort of doing the same mundane thing every day and you don't want to do any more sort of tests or anything, you sort of have to have your goals set out. And sort of, I think a key thing, especially with lockdown, and hopefully we're sort of coming over that hurdle now, but I think, yeah, sort of having your goals and sort of working out, right, how many applications am I going to do? 30, 40, 50, 20, how many I'm going to do? How long is this going to take me? Like, have I got a deadline for myself? Have I set these sort of things out? And what is the outcome and what outcome do I want? And, having that kind of direction and focus for where you want to take your application process, because it's your career and it's your like, what are you doing this for other than for your own, your own success? And so having that established will help you have a focus and help you achieve those milestones, I think, along the way. And then I think, yeah, some other key things would just be like setting timetables and prioritizing, what work needs to be done, what application needs to be sent off. If one you don't really care about, it doesn't really need to be done, and it's actually really stressing you out, you don't have to do it. There's other opportunities you can take, but yeah, and having those in a set timetable routine for your week or for the next week, and having that around your lectures timetable, just yeah, having routines. I think routines are something that's just always helped me get back on track and help me sort of tick things off and get those all done. I also find actually as well, one thing I did learn, like I think this year, is having a to-do list can be really stressful. Like, because you've got, a massive list of all these things you need to do, and you look at it and it's daunting, and it's like, oh no. I actually find it nice to do like I would like to, and I would like to list.
Okay.
So you would like to get done and have them sort of ranked in. Oh, I'd really like this done. Yes, no, that's actually something that's helped me. And then yeah,
You can't do that when you get the job, right? You can't be like, I would like to do all these tasks, but
It's for the students.
Yeah,
But
that's cool.
yeah, and then making sure you're exercising. I think that's another one. Having that balance between sort of exercise and your social life, and having that all together, because that will keep your mental health up and keep you sort of ready to go. And then I think the last one will be, if you are really sort of focused on something, you really want something. Say there's one job, like I really want this position at OCNC. I really want to be their strategy consultant. That I think, like, making sure you prioritize that and cut those distractions and cut things out that are sort of pushing you away from that goal. Like, I think you should really go for things, because you never know what you're going to get, and most of like your opportunities you have, like a lot of them are luck. A lot of them are luck, a lot of hard work, but it's also a lot of luck. And so if you don't put that effort in and really go for these things, you're not going to have that opportunity to shine and get these things. So yeah, I think, yeah, prioritizing must be the key one then, to stream for all of those, having that, like, the things you really want there at the top and really going for them. And so yeah, definitely those. But hopefully with lockdown closing off, we'll be all right from now on. Just have to see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I think prioritization, being organized, routine, I think that's really important. Yeah, because just mentally, especially with things going into lockdown, I think that was one of the first things that creates a problem for people, that lack of routine. And if you give yourself a structure in that job search, I think that can make it feel a little bit easier. So yeah, no, that's really, really important. Slightly different question. So we have some employers that will probably be listening as well, and they'd kind of love to hear, your thoughts on probably how they could better support candidates through application processes, or it could be perhaps, what did Deloitte and Accenture do really well that made you want to work there or apply there, or kind of stick with all the application processes. So yeah, any thoughts for employers at all?
I think for the last bit you said about what did companies do that I actually really stood out to me. I think Accenture really made their virtual assessment center really engaging and really actually, you didn't even sort of see the time going. Like, it went really quickly because they had a lot of activities and they had some really cool challenges. I think, I don't know how much I'm allowed to talk about, but
I guess you can't tell the specific, specific challenges, but just broadly,
they had a really cool challenges sector, which was sort of something I've never done before, where I was guessing, countries and all this, using mental general knowledge and stuff that I hadn't used in years. So that was really engaging. And I think I came out of the experience, even though I wasn't sure how well I did, I sort of came out like, oh, that was fun, like, cool, like that was it, it's done. But actually, I really enjoyed that. And I think, definitely making sure that like virtual experiences are fun, engaging, and they are sort of helping candidates to bring out, cool sides of themselves that enable them to show themselves, rather than just maybe like an hour interview or something as the final stage. I think it's great to have those different activities that showcase different skill sets. I think, and one thing as well that I've really enjoyed from employers is, so some companies have done masterclasses, and so this has particularly been with SEO London. So I think OCNC did one, PA Consulting did one, and IHS Market did one. These are the ones that I've attended, and I think with these companies, I actually felt much more inclined to apply for these companies, and also understanding of what they do, the industry. Motivational speakers were coming, like, talking about their experiences, their journeys in that company or outside of that company. And I was hearing from the CEO of IHS Market, he was talking about all sorts of really interesting information. And I think those masterclasses where they're giving you application tips, they're giving you insights, and they're giving you networking opportunities, all for free, and just because they want to inspire sort of a generation of students, I think those are so important. And particularly on platforms like SEO London, where you've got a lot of diverse students on that platform. I think it's so important to have that sort of access and delivering great bouts of information. So I think rather than just the typical company insight where you're there talking about an hour of nothing too interesting, when you have a sort of particular a women's panel where they're talking about the women's experiences that they've had in the company, and you're talking about there's graduates coming on talking about where they want to go in the future and how they've come to this position, it's so much more engaging, where you can have stuff you can either relate to or learn from. And so I think those masterclasses are definitely something I would recommend to companies to put on and to invite people to, 100%. But I think overall, one thing that has been good is a lot of companies have been doing online insight days, which has been great, virtual access to what companies have been up to and how they can help you in recruiting processes. But those little miles extra that some companies have gone to sort of get students engaged and get them interested have been a lot more, really, really resulting in a great result. So I've enjoyed those.
Amazing. Yeah, well, we've helped out a lot of students, I'm sure, and now employers as well are going to learn from this as well. So I mean,
that's hires. That's the other thing.
Sure. That's true. So and from here, you're really excited to kind of I guess explore what you'll be doing in these summer internships. It's going to be a exciting journey, and then you're going to be back for your final year, and you'll be going down that route again, I guess, for graduate schemes.
Yeah, no, I'm excited, and I mean, I think they're both virtual this year, so unfortunately not in the office, but that's definitely recommended with Corona, so that's fine. But yeah, no, I'm really excited, and I'm really happy I've got these opportunities, because I know it's been such a difficult time to get these, especially with how competitive everything's been and how hard it's been to get everything done. But I'm really grateful that I've got these, and I'm really excited to sort of see where it turns out, see where it goes, and hopefully I enjoy the work as well. That's the main thing, isn't it?
But that's the great thing about doing a summer internship. You can find what you really like, what you don't like, what you're suited to, and then go for the graduate schemes after that. So as we close out, any kind of final thoughts or words of encouragement for anyone else? It could be someone in their first year who's about to embark on this journey as well. Any kind of final thoughts?
I think key thing I want to say is work out what you want. That's the first thing. Work out what you want and really do some background research on the industry, background research on the job roles you might want to do, and really get that goal set up so you can work towards it. And then from that goal, that initial goal, when you've got it there, that's where you can work out, okay, the deadlines of the companies, this application I need to do, this thing. Then, having that first initial goal of I want to be an investment banker at Barclays, that there gives you a nice structure for you to suit your activities in a certain direction for. And I think that's really important. I also think don't give up as well, because you can get as many rejections as possible and you never know, the last one might be an acceptance. So, keep going. I know it's been hard this year, but I mean, if you're a university student, you're definitely you're definitely talented enough, definitely capable enough to get these roles. And I think you just have to remember that and do some maths practice, as they want. Graduates first, I think you can use if you have a university login. So do some maths practice for your tests. But yeah, those are the key things, I think.
100%. Love that. That's brilliant. I mean, such good advice. Get your goals, your routines, have fun during the interview process. Lots of gems there. So really do appreciate it. I'm sure you've helped lots of people with this one. So yeah, Ella, congrats again on getting these 2 roles with Accenture and Deloitte. I'm sure they're delighted to have you. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks so much for offering this opportunity, Toby. It's been great to talk to you again. And yeah, I hope everyone who's listening either has found something, that will help them or is ready to keep going on the journey. But yeah,